Hey, I'm John Patrick Shanley, the writer and director of Wild Mountain Thyme. And today I'm talking with Emily Blunt and Jamie Dornan about a sort of big set piece towards the end of the film, which takes place in Rosemary Muldoon's kitchen. And Rosemary Muldoon is played by Emily Blunt. So basically, just to remind you, I know you've seen the film, or at least that's what I was told. The Jamie's trapped outside in a violent rainstorm, and Emily's not answering the door, and he's doused with a giant draft of rain that comes down, just about drowns him. Then she lets him in, and the dog gets in a little bit later, and they go in the kitchen and they sit down and walk around, and they talk for a heck of a long time. And so we thought we might just, bat it about a little bit about what it's like to do a set piece like that in a film, where usually the scenes are much shorter. And so I guess I'd like to start by asking Emily, how do you prepare when you know you're going to be doing an extended sequence like that?
Um, I think first of all, I start, I just read it and read it and read it and read it over and over again until feel that by osmosis, just absorbing it all, I have a sort of concept of what the architecture of it is going to be more than anything. Because you do want that shape to it so that it's not, and then eventually it'll rise to a climax and then it will all sort of come out in the wash. And so how do you pace it, and what do you reveal when, and what is each moment really about? So that I always felt that kitchen scene was almost overwhelming at first to look at, because I knew it was just monstrously long, even though most theater acts would be like, come on, get on with it. But I think we're not used to that in film. And it just excited me so much, that we would get to live in the world of one scene for about 20 minutes of the film. And we shot it over 5 days. And I was aware of that when I spoke to you in sort of prepping it. We were going to just shoot it and shoot it and shoot it until the whole thing was done. And I think that was really thrilling to me as well, that I just wanted to make sure that the shape of it was in line with what you saw when you wrote it. And I wanted it to be this sort of battle between them. And it's her final, if I can speak from my perspective going into that scene, this is Rosemary's, this is the climax of her plight in like trying to get Anthony to fall in love with her, be with her, and make the right decision finally in his life. She is at her wit's end. So there's a sort of passionate desperation to her at the top of this. And she has him trapped, and even how you wrote it in the script, I was like, oh, it's a very tiny little kitchen. It's like she's got him cornered. And what does that look like? And what would that feel like? So that's sort of the kind of things I thought about. And then I thought, I've got to learn these bloody lines, There's rather a lot of them.
And then your quarry, uh, uh, Jamie, so you're the hunted one in this scene, and I loosened you up by dumping a barrel of freezing cold water over your head right before you come into the house, which I remember you really appreciated. Uh, uh, and then you find yourself in that. And so, what was it like for you to prepare for and do this scene?
Let's not forget that, before every take, I'm getting resprayed with water to make sure that I'm sufficiently wet um, to take on the scene, which I'm gonna say it was a harder deal for me because Emily at least got to do it dry. I feel like I got the worst end of the stick there. But I feel like a scene like that, a big set piece like that, where in this movie every everything is being said in that scene. Everything that he's always wanted to say but couldn't say, but then is forced into saying because he's sort of trapped, and she's manipulating him into this point where he has to get it out, as uncomfortable as that is for him. It's all happening in that scene. So there's so much writing on it. I feel like a scene like that, you always, I like, the actors are the last people to get schedules, and it really, really frustrates me. And I know a million reasons why producers don't like actors to have schedules, but I get very panicky about learning lines, and particularly a big scene like that where there's so much of it. And I like to sort of plan it out 'cause I'm not very good at it, and I like to make sure I have the right time and have a process to learn lines. And when I get a schedule and I know there's a scene like that, I that's the one I highlight, and everything sort of works towards that. I'm always like, oh my god, right, okay, I've got 11 days until that big scene, And luckily, as Emily said, we had a few days with the kitchen scene, so that was great. But it's the one you're most fearful of, because it doesn't work unless that scene works. And definitely it was the scene that Emily and I, we had a chance to get together and rehearse when we could. It was always straight to that scene. It was not, we weren't mucking about with any other. It was like, right, let's
Let's do
tackle
the
the
kitchen scene. We got to do the kitchen scene.
over and over and over and over and over again until it's in our heads. But in saying that, as often is the case with these things, um, the most fun scene to shoot, and just so rewarding, your beautiful words. And by that stage, I think Emily and I had such a strong sort of sense of these crazy people. And it was just, it was a dance, it was a dance, and the movement of it and the emotion of it, and being able to sort of really, truly react in a way that I knew how Emily was going to move as Rosemary, and I felt I knew how I was going to move as Anthony, and that felt never stronger than in that kitchen scene. So it was a joy to shoot it. I mean, I was on such a high when we finished on that Friday. I remember very clearly, because I drove down south to Connemara a couple of hours to see my family on that Friday, and I kind of wept the whole way. Really crazy emotional, and I felt like there was this sort of exodus of Anthony as I drove through maybe the most part of Ireland, and so yeah, it definitely had an effect on me, that scene.
Mm. You know, I've had a lifelong desire for some ill-defined thing which revolves around conversation. I've always had an ache in my chest to have a certain conversation with somebody. And I knew that if I could have this conversation, my life would finally make sense, be solved, and that I would open a door into a bigger room. And it's one of the big reasons that I write. And this scene is that conversation for me. I always sort of notice how I feel. And so, many mornings I got up, as we all did, in darkness in Ireland, and it's raining and it's cold. And I think, where am I and what am I doing today? And that morning I woke up in the dark and I thought, I'm having this feeling. I'm having a feeling that I've had before. When did I feel this way before? And I thought, when I was a child on Christmas morning. And I walked in that day knowing both of you were incredibly well prepared, very frightened, and that would only make you both that much the better. I've had a couple of rounds of eye surgery, and they give you like a pamphlet. And one of the things it says in the pamphlet is, with eye surgery, a little fear is good. Mm. And that's also true of acting, I think. That, you walk in and you're in a heightened state. And it's funny, with all the anxiety about lines and everything, neither one of you had one word wrong ever in that scene, in all of that scene. You had the occasional flub or whatever, but you were absolutely pristine in that regard. And I could see that you had entered a certain kind of metaphysical meadow where everything was kind of working for you, supporting you, like the sun came out for a minute and clouds cleared and all of the problems of your challenges that both of you endure as human beings on this earth for a moment disappeared, and you were finally free, and free to do that thing that you love more than anything else. Forgive me for presuming to say that. And that it was long enough for you to luxuriate in it. That it wasn't, oh, you didn't just get to have this great moment and then it was out. You could stay there. And I wanted to stay there.
I mean, I like the way you say that, like luxuriate in it, because, like it's sort of the opposite to the big climactic rain scene, which is so like you've been thrown into a fire and you're in a straitjacket and you've got a minute to get out of it. And you're only going to shoot it once. It was felt like that, and it's mad and it's a real thrill and a rush, and you come out of it and go, oh my God, what happened in there? Was it good? I don't know. You're looking for reactions to sort of show you the way and inform you how it is. Whereas something like that, we got to, soak it all up and soak it in and sort of wallow in the sort of heaviness of it, and also the lightness of it, and the beauty of it, and the darkness of it, and all of the mad layers written in that kitchen scene. And it did feel in the nicest way, like sort of indulgent, that we were able to shoot it over a couple of days and really, make it right. And I'm really proud of that scene. I think it's like, it's great. And it was, as I said before, so fun to shoot it.
And you were sort of encouraging me to use every prop as a device to woo him. And so even the candle was put in front of me, and you said, now move it towards him. And even that, just slowly moving it towards him, like it was so exquisite because Jamie as Anthony by that point, like he knows what she's doing, and she's kind of like lethal, like moving in for the kill here. So even like moving a candle across, he was like, oh my God, like come on, stop it, like even something like that. So I think that was the boiling pot, was having it all in this small confined space where no one can escape. And so every single moment, nuance, touch, move closer is magnified, and it felt magnified on the day. Like everything mattered, everything had a reason, and it was all this desperate pursuit. And you're right, she was hunting him down, and like we've talked about before, and like it's a line in the film where you talk about the Irish not being very direct people. She is like thrown caution to the wind, and everything that's in her DNA as an Irish person is gone, and she is having that conversation that you were talking about. And his own discomfort is not only because it's his personality, but it's in his DNA as an Irish person that you do not talk about this stuff. Like you don't ask me those questions, So the whole thing, and Jamie is Irish, so it's sort of in his bloodstream, that whole thing, and it was just heaven. And I totally get why you cried, Jamie, because I think it's very true. When you get to do a scene like that, you are free, and it's hard to explain it to people until John Patrick Shanley explains it to us, how it makes you feel. And it did feel exactly like you said, you're sort of flying suddenly, and it's very special.
When you're having fun at work, and my whole MO with this, life choice to be an actor is to have fun with it and make sure that no matter how dark the material is, how moving the material, you're having fun at work. Because why would you pick such a crazy career path if not to have fun and explore all these different aspects of your own being? I think the best days and the best scenes are, you feel like you just do them all day, you do them again, and actually there's a part of you, if the AD came up and said, Jesus, I don't know how to tell you this, but they didn't have any film in the camera, we're gonna have to do it again tomorrow. And you'd be like, you know what, yeah, great,
yeah,
and that felt like that to me. I could have done it all again and again. I loved it.
Now you had this extra thing, which was you had a secret, and she wants to know what the secret is. And it was a very unusual secret, and the people who watch this know what the secret is. So you're walking around with this secret, this revelation that she's trying to get out of you, and you don't want to give up. And what was that like?
It's the most painful thing ever to let that go. Like truly felt like delicacy that it would take to sort of genuinely harness and harbor and look after a bee throughout that entire scene, and then eventually the sort of pained relief to actually just give it a tiny wee hole that it can just like get out and survive. And it felt like that, you know. I felt like um this utter um like like pain, like it was painful to release it, but then once I released it, it was joy, you know. And you know, I've said this before, you know, it doesn't happen very often as an actor. Like, but I had convinced myself by the time that we got to that very moment where I say, I believe that I am a honeybee. I believe that I, as me, as Jamie Dornan, uh, believed that I was Anthony Riley, and I was saying that I thought I was a fucking honeybee. I mean, it was kind of like insane. Never really, truly felt like that on a set before. I genuinely have. Like, I've got myself into moments where I'm like, yeah, well, listen, think that was okay, and there's a bit of truth there, definitely. But whatever had happened, and I got myself to a place where I convinced that I was telling you know, Rosemary Muldoon.
Well, Jamie, Emily, I enjoyed every day that I got to work with you, and I enjoyed talking with you today about Wild Mountain Thyme and life in general. And I hope we talk again soon. But for today, ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao. See you later.